Hey everybody, welcome. This is Mike, and welcome to the Pound for Pound Leader Podcast, as well as the Inspire Collective Podcast and Homegrown Heroes. It's so good to be with you guys. I hope you're having an incredible November as we head into Thanksgiving. I hope you're thinking about all you can be thankful for, more than you were thinking about that turkey. Good to have you guys here today. I'm really excited about this interview that I want you to listen to. This one is powerful. Let me tell you about this. I'm interviewing David Cunningham, who is a filmmaker, director, producer of 10 different films for more than 2 decades. David, let me give you his credentials. David has directed big budget studio films from Fox, Disney, ABC, pioneering and award-winning independent features, as well as hard-hitting documentaries filmed in over 50 countries. David was born in Switzerland to his parents, Lauren and Darlene Cunningham, the founders of YWAM. You'll hear that more in the interview. And then David Cunningham has had the privilege to direct a wide range of today's finest actors, including Harvey Keitel, Edward James Olmos, Mark Strong, Robert Carlyle, Kiefer Sutherland, Ian McShane, Christopher Eccleston, Idris Elba, wow, Matt Dillon, come on now, The Outsiders, Jim Caviezel, Jesus, right? Donnie Wahlberg, Alexander Ludwig, and Cunningham is probably best known for his gritty World War II drama called To End All Wars on 20th Century Fox, and the primetime Emmy-winning miniseries on ABC called The Path to 9/11. And David recently completed directing the action-adventure The Wind and the Reckoning, penned by John Fusco, who made Young Guns, Hidalgo, Marco Polo, and starring Jason Scott Lee, Jungle Book, Bruce Lee, and Mulan. Cunningham is represented by the United Talent Agency and is a member of Directors Guild of America. And having traveled, watch this, personally to 150 countries, David has earned membership in the prestigious Travelers Century Club, whose members must prove that they had visited at least 100 countries. I'd like to be in that club. And he enjoys long-distance trail running, open water swimming, but most of all, surfing at home in Hawaii with his wife, Judith, and their 3 children, Maddie, Kenna, and Liam. Guys, take a look at this trailer. It is amazing, of the movie, The Wind and the Reckoning.
The story I need to tell you is true. I offer and dedicate it to my people, the Native Hawaiian.
Hini o liliuka moi Hawaii. Speak English, boy.
You are to shoot on sight, regardless of weapon, gender, or age.
Mai ai ka ino I loko o kou uwai e ka ukika e ele ku ana.
Ya la kou o maki no kako. Ya la kou o makakei aina.
Colonial knows this land. I wouldn't underestimate it.
Yes, we'll hear the firepower and the numbers.
Where is that leper bastard?
With me, my husband, Ko'olau. With me, my child, Kalei. With me until the final disappearance.
You are the trophy he obsesses, and he will not stop until you are dead.
Hey everybody, need I say more? Yes, we do. We are interviewing the great, good man, David Cunningham. Everybody, welcome David Cunningham to the podcast. Hey, David, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for making time. Tell us what the last 6 months or maybe the last 3 months of your life has been like since the release of The Wind and the Reckoning.
It's been wild, Pastor Mike. And first off, thank you for having me. And thank you and the whole Inspire team for all you guys have been doing for so many months. And you guys came on early supporter. And so grateful. Yeah, we've been on this crazy tour with our film, The Wind and the Reckoning. I just got off the plane last night, getting on another one tomorrow morning. And we've been bouncing around from festivals on the continent to now premieres throughout the islands. And we're basically touring with a group of Native Hawaiians, a delegation that is touring with the movie.
Wow.
And so we're doing Native Hawaiian protocols, and then discussions with our cast that is traveling with us as well. And then afterwards, we're also in some cases doing some forms of entertainment and cultural exchanges, whether it's with other Native Americans or other cultures. So it's been wild. I think we've done more. It's all a bit of a blur to me. Last one was yesterday, I think. But anyway, it's been amazing.
Well, that's awesome, David, because most of our listeners have not yet seen the movie. And I just want to let them know that this movie called The Wind and the Reckoning is about a beautiful story of a family on the island of Kauai that is trying to evade capture from the authorities during a time of leprosy, roughly around 1894. Am I right? 1894?
Starts in 1893 and goes for 3.5 years. But yeah,
okay,
it's about that.
Wow. And it's a true story of a man named Ko'olau and his wife named Pi'ilani, and how Ko'olau gets leprosy. And during that time, people, if you're listening to this, watching this, only, if I'm not mistaken, only the Hawaiians were the ones that were rounded up and put on isolation on Kalaupapa Peninsula on the island of Molokai. And it's just a heart-wrenching time where there's a change in government, there's an overthrow, there's also families being ripped apart, torn apart, sent away from one another, and people turning in other people who have leprosy. And it was just a really terrible time in Hawaii's history. And David, I'm going to tell everybody that the reason why this movie captured my attention so much was because it was about a year ago during what seemed like the height of the pandemic craze of vaccinations. And it was during that time where no matter how you feel about vaccinations, people, I think it's important for us to understand that that's your own choice to take it. But it was being imposed upon the people. And it was that time that it kind of paralleled what was going on in 1893, 1894, with what was going on in 2021 and 2022. From my perspective of being a pastor and a leader in the community. And that's why I think it struck a chord, number one, because I'm Hawaiian. Number two, because it's definitely you sense the faith of God in this movie through this family. And it was in that time, people, that you have to watch this movie, that it grabbed my attention and my staff's attention so much that we really believed that God was going to use this movie in Hawaii, and not just Hawaii, but throughout the world, but mainly in the islands, where there seems to be kind of this searching for, David, how would you put it? Where there's people of Hawaiian ancestry like myself, but at the same time, a little bit disappointed in the past of what's happened in Hawaii. But I feel like I told somebody, David, that it felt like there was a reconciliation, and a lot of questions, yet at the same time was the reconciliation of what happened during that time. Could you speak to that, about why did you pick up the project and how was it shot?
Yeah, it's been a long journey. So I first heard about this from one of my creative partners, John Fusco, who's a really successful screenwriter. Young Guns, 1 and 2, Hidalgo, Forbidden Kingdom, Highwaymen. And he read a short story version of this in the 80s when he was on his honeymoon on the Big Island. And I was working with him on another movie, a studio movie, and we were riding his horses on his farm there in Vermont, and he brought up this concept of ko'olau, and I was embarrassed. I grew up in Hawaii and love history, so I studied a lot of it, and I was embarrassed because I hadn't heard about this.
Mm-hmm.
And we started digging into it over the years, and then in 2013 we started getting serious about it, and John began knocking away on the script, and really one of the big kind of lightning rod inspirations was when we found Pete Ilani's memoirs had been translated into English.
Wow.
And her memoirs were only translated into English in early 2000s. So she has the first-hand account, and she wanted to set the record straight because other accounts were making ko'olau to be the bad guy, the nemesis. He was burning down houses and it was terrorizing Kauai, and she wanted to set the record straight. And I think it's important for your listeners to understand that this Native Hawaiian family were committed to the Creator God, and they'd met in missionary school, and there was this tension, not unlike your heritage, but the very sheriff that was pursuing him, they went to church with. And so when they got leprosy, and they were going to divide the family, there's that tension going on because that sheriff was now working under the provisional government. And so now he had a new job description, right? And they were using this law that if any Hawaiian is even suspected of leprosy, So we've been meeting all kinds of families affiliated with Kalapapa, and many were sent there with a birthmark, or maybe someone had an issue with them, and this was a way to get them out of there.
Wow.
So it was, a very dark time. But this family, they refused to be separated, and they said, "Who are you to break the bonds of marriage?" Because the moment your feet touched the sands in Kalapapa, by law, your marriage was considered divorce, and you were considered dead. And they said, "We will not be broken. Our family will not be separated." And they went on the run. And for 3.5 years, they were pursued by bounty hunters. Bounty hunters were given $10 a Hawaiian to bring to Kalapapa. And they would pull them out of schools. We met one patient. He was pulled out of school in Oahu at 6 years old. He's still alive. He's still with us. And we just heard all these heartbreaking stories. Just recently at our premiere in Oahu, one of the experts came up to me and said, "Do you know there's 3,000 babies born at Kalapapa? And many of them at a certain age would be taken away from their parents." And I think something, Pastor, that's been like really revelational for me growing up here in Hawaii is that Kalapapa, they're from all the islands were sent there. There wasn't, so you have families. So we keep meeting families that have deep connections there again and again and again. So 8,000 Hawaiians are in unmarked graves today, and many of them lost and forgotten. And so that's my heart. And we went on this journey. You asked me personally. I'm a descendant of missionaries. And what was the descendants of missionaries? What was in God's plan for that generation in Hawaii? And clearly, they went off the rails, undermined the people, and as you well know, tens of thousands of Hawaiians walked out of the church because their holy brothers and sisters betrayed them. And if I can play a small role, I don't really get emotional here, sorry. If I can play a small role in what the missionary descendants were supposed to be doing for the Hawaiian people in this film, then that's amazing.
It's like it's like you're redeeming that, or you're there is an amazing thing that I've been learning in the last few years. The last year, I would say, is I've been listening to different lectures, and one of the lectures that I listened to was about how the 12 companies of missionaries that came from New England, they all came with great intentions. And the misnomer that they took away the kapu system, then it wasn't them. The kapu was already broken by the time they arrived. Kamehameha the Great dies in 1819, right? the missionaries get on the ship on 1819. How are you going to, there's no telegraph at that time that would give them any word, you know? And so when they're on the ship, that's when he dies. And in that void of time is where the kapu was broken, and they land. So there's a void. Kapu's broken by Kahumanu, Keopuolani, Kawi Keooli, I think, no, not Kawi Keopuolani, his mother, and Kamehameha II is, and all his chiefs, some of his advisors broken. So they arrive. And those 12 companies that come in about an 80-year period, they all come with great intentions, push forward the gospel, love the people of Hawaii. And you're right, it was the offspring. It was the second and third generation that were sent back to the mainland for schooling. They were sent to, what were originally seminaries like Yale, sent there, but secular humanism made it in by the time they get sent back to these schools. That's what I'm discovering. So you have Darwinism that has seeped into the Ivy League schools, and when they come back to help run more business rather than pick up the missionary mantle, they're coming back as businessmen, and that's when it all begins to fall apart. And so I just wanted to leap off of what you said about we're going to redeem that. This film is redeeming that. I am a descendant of the original missionaries in 1835, David Lyman, and my family goes back for centuries in these islands. And your dad prophesied over me on the phone. He says, Mike, I think God's going to use you to reconcile, be a part of that reconciliation process between missionaries and the Hawaiian people. David, I'd love to. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say, we've been grappling as we've been showing this movie, and been working on it for several years, and ironically, it took the pandemic to actually trigger it, where because cast and crew were available, we weren't working. We moved on to a ranch on Big Island here, Kohala, not far from your hometown, Onaka'a. And we created a bubble, and we made and worked this film together and on a shoestring. And it's just been a wing and a prayer. But we felt like the Lord showed up. And, my constant prayer is, may the God of Pi'ilani and Ko'olau show up. And he's been showing up. It's been amazing. But I've been trying to grapple with, as we have been doing these screenings, and Hawaiians come up to me and are processing, and I'm trying to listen. I don't have answers, but we're bringing up questions and articulating the questions. This one woman came up to me in tears at one of our Oahu screenings there at Ward, and she was weeping, and she was saying, thank you for showing and demonstrating Hawaiians giving aloha in the face of colonization.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. And the second thing she said was, thank you for defining what a haole is and what a haole isn't.
Yeah.
And, growing up, I went to Konawaina, survived, killed haole day, all that. I was the only haole boy out of my friends.
It was a real thing, folks.
Real deal. I made a movie about it called Beyond Paradise years ago. But my heart is so to honor the host culture of Hawaii. And we talk about diversity, and that's and Hawaii being the most diverse ethnically, culturally in the United States by far. But no matter what your ethnicity, and no matter where you are, this is a principle that's biblical, is that it's the right thing to do to turn and honor the host culture. And when you turn and honor the host culture, wherever you are, you will get that blessing. And you will not only be a blessing, but you will get that blessing. And I think that's what's starting to resonate beyond our shores of Hawaii with other indigenous peoples. So there's a word that I'd love to just see what you think, Pastor.
Okay.
And it's the word resilience. And I've been thinking about as these Hawaiians come up and process and talk. And I looked up the word resilience, and I always thought it meant almost like armor, where some bullet will bounce off you. I'm resilient, I'm strong. But as I looked up the definition, it actually talked about trauma being inflicted. So you are wounded, you are something in you has been impacted negatively,
Right.
but it's the ability to overcome that. And so I feel like there's a lesson in there, and I don't have it all figured out, but the Hawaiian people have had trauma inflicted on them.
Yeah.
And my prayer is that resilience, that their souls, I can't speak to what Hawaii is going to look like physically and politically,
Yeah.
but for the souls that have been carrying that, like you, like so many of your family, that's my prayers. Maybe this film can play a small role in helping that resilience be fulfilled.
Oh, I love that. I think resilience is throughout the Bible. You look in the Old Testament, people were resilient, who went through traumatic times. You look at Gideon. Gideon was resilient. When in the Midianites came after them, and he's hiding in a threshing wheat at the bottom of a wine press and trying to save his food because the Midianites were coming and stealing their food. They were disrupting the food supply chain. When you look at the resilience of the people, the Hebrew people, and then you look at the resilience of the Hawaiians. I think Hawaiians are tremendously resilient. I think that with that warrior, see the thing about people of Hawaii, they're beautiful, loving, peace loving, but there's a warrior side to them as well. And I think you put it so well when you said resilience. You see resilience coming out of this film. You see resilience in the people. What I would love to know as a filmmaker, people, if you don't know David Cunningham, you have to at the very beginning I announced all of his credits and the movies that he's created, produced, directed. Incredible. Some of my favorite actors he's worked with. Matt Dillon, come on. The Outsiders, Matt Dillon on The Outsiders. He was the punk older brother on that old film in the 80s. I'm looking at Donnie Wahlberg. I mean, thinking about Mark Strong. Mark Strong is one of my favorite films with Leonardo DiCaprio, Body of Lies. What an incredible actor. You worked with some of the best. What made you, as a Christ follower who was brought up by Lauren and Darlene Cunningham, everybody, the founders of YWAM, Youth with a Mission, University of the Nations in Kona. David goes to Kona High School. I used to play against Kona High School. There are only like 5 blonde-haired haoles that I knew in Kona, and one of them was Andrew Cannon. You know Andrew Cannon? Andrew Cannon. He was a cross-country runner, surfer. There's this guy named in Kona named Taituna. Do you remember him? Like this huge Samoan volleyball player and basketball player. Incredible. Anyway, he went to Kona High School, everybody. That's as local as it can get, man. It is rough and tumble. He's brought up. He becomes a filmmaker. And I'd love to hear that part of the story sometime during this interview. And so instead of being a missionary, so to speak, and you've been to countries, like over 100 countries, right? You've became a filmmaker to tell stories, the mo'olelo of different people and their stories. What made you take on this project when John Fusco came to you with this script and this story?
Yeah, well, to ramp up to that answer, Pastor, I have 7 generations of pastors and missionaries in my family, wow. 4 generations on the other side. So my great-grandfather started 13 churches out of a covered wagon in the territory of Oklahoma, building wow. churches by hand, brick by brick, baking them in the sun. They'd fill up a church, go get back in the covered wagon and do it again. My great-uncle was a missionary to China during World War II, and he stayed with his church through World War II and was put in a prisoner of war camp. And wow. The Lord provided for him. A chicken would lay an egg outside the fence line, same place every day, and that's how he was sustained.
Wow, incredible.
My grandmother was the first woman ordained minister in Assemblies of God, and she was the first woman to speak in Young Cho's church, the largest church in the world.
What?
And challenged them to have women as pastors. And now there's more pastors that are women at that church than there are men. And my parents started this organization, YWAM, Youth of the Mission. So here I come, the family business, Clear Missions ministry. And as a kid growing up here in Hawaii, and I had this awesome childhood because I got you know what it was like growing up here in the 70s on the Big Island. It might as well have been like developing country.
Yeah.
And I mean that in a really good way.
Right.
It
Good
was,
way.
you know, we didn't have a single traffic light. You know, we were feral, like no shoes, no shirt, you know. So I got all the freckles because no sunscreen, you know.
Yeah.
And just had an awesome time. But we would also travel and visit missionaries around the world as part of what my folks would do. And we'd go to these remote locations to encourage missionaries. And I saw a lot of amazing people doing really good things, hard places. And I would hear their stories, and I'd watch my father bring those stories back and pass them on. And even though my family is a history of ministers like you know, you have to be a storyteller.
Yeah.
And there are authors and all of that. So when I came to my dad as a teenager, and I was like, you know, I think I want to be a filmmaker. No exposure to that, not at all. We had, I don't know if you remember, the Aloha Theater was the only one Kona side back in the day, and sometimes it had lights up Captain Cook side, up Mauka.
Oh yeah, by Kealikikoa side. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, you know, it wasn't like we were around Hollywood, you know, but I just had this. It was just in me. And so my dad was like, well, you mean like Billy Graham movies, David? You know, like, I don't know, no, like Hollywood movies. And if I had the lexicon that I do now, I would say I have a heart for popular culture.
Yeah.
I want to be in that. I want to bring stories into popular culture and get people thinking and processing and bridge story with audiences. And so this particular film, what struck me, not only my heart for Hawaii, this is my 4th movie to make in Hawaii, 10th, I guess, overall. But I have a passion for Hawaii. I love it here. I have the privilege to raise my family here. We have 4 generations on the Big Island now that have joined over the years. My grandfather and father first came here in 1960. And so I love this place and I love the people. But in terms of the themes, resilience, yes, but at the core of it too, it's all about Ohana. And well, you know, Ohana, not much like the word aloha, is sometimes dismissed as being, oh, that's nice, that's warm and fuzzy.
Right.
But Ohana family is a weapon. And it is when Ohana, if Ohana breaks down, it's over.
Yeah.
You know, society will break down.
Right.
And the Creator God is all about Ohana. And when I saw in this storyline about government overreach into Ohana, when I saw racism trying to impact Ohana, all of that, that's what I wanted to get behind. And this movie was a family film. So my wife was the makeup artist on this. My 2 daughters were assistants. My son was an extra. And we all lived together in making this movie on this ranch in Kohala. Our star, Jason Scott Lee, he had one requirement to do this film, was that his family would be there with him.
Wow.
And so his 3 kids and wife moved on to the ranch with us. They've been touring with us. My family's been touring with us.
That's
so
amazing.
There is power in that. And we need to, however you define your Ohana, whatever that looks like, it needs to be protected at all costs. And that's what I felt was like Ko'olau was righteous to be able to push back. And so that is one of the really key things. Many others, but that was something that just really struck me.
100%, David. You saw the resilience in the Ohana. That's where the resilience was, when he wouldn't allow his family to be separated over 100 years ago, 140 years ago. I'm not letting my family get separated. And that was what grabbed me, to be honest. People, you're listening to this grabbed me the most. I mean, I cried the whole movie, even though it was still the director's cut, and I got to see it in 2021, and here it is coming to fruition. All of your hard work in 2022 being released, and guys, you need to know this, that this movie is so powerful that you got to go watch it right away at Consolidated Ward. Before it breaks out anywhere, so we can continue to move into different consolidated theaters throughout the islands, because every person who lives in Hawaii needs to see this film, because it is such a great story, historically, spiritually as well, culturally, no doubt about it. But this movie actually was made at the right time. And to me, everybody, you have to watch this. It seemed to parallel so much what Hawaii was going through with the end of the shutdowns, or right around the shutdowns, and the possibility of no travel, and breaking up families, that you can't fly if you didn't get the vaccination, and your parents who live in Las Vegas cannot come home, or you cannot go see them until, and that was a resolution that was being pushed into Congress, and thank God that it never became a bill. But it was that time that I was feeling that pressure, and when I saw the movie, it just paralleled everything that Hawaii seemed to be going through, and I was sensing, and that movie just was boom, perfect timing. And so to me, this movie, everybody, you got to go see it. I highly recommend this movie. David,
Can I break some news on your podcast? Some breaking news?
Yeah, please do.
We've been doing so well at Ward. We are opening this weekend at Kapolei and Pearl City.
Wow.
It's going to be showing starting this weekend, Ward, Kapolei, and Pearl City, and then we open in Maui as well this weekend, and Kauai.
That's incredible.
And then the following week we'll be in Big Island, and I got some good news for you too. Not only will be in Ohana starting the 23rd, and Hilo, Makalapua, and Prince Kuhio and Hilo. We've been invited by Honaka'a, so we're coming to Honaka'a.
Wow.
To the Honaka'a Theater. They heard about the film, invited us, and we'll also, even Waikoloa has invited us. So it's working. So all Inspire family that showed up, I'm so grateful. It's working. So please keep coming. So we'll be all over the islands, and now is the time. Please show up. Every ticket matters, because all these theater chains are tied into like a box office system.
Okay.
And so when they see people buying tickets, they invite your film. And these theater chains also have mother companies on the continent. So we're starting to get some rumbles there, because we want this to keep going. So a big mahalo to everybody, but
praise God.
Keep going up.
Praise God.
You heard it first.
Yeah. I know. I'm so stoked for you guys and for us, especially the one at Honaka'a. I'm going to be there. You got to get me in there. I got to host somehow and get all my friends and all my friends. I'm going to buy them the tickets. They got to go. Guys, I want to add one more thing. This movie, when it was made during the pandemic, in the beginning of the pandemic, and how the miraculous way that the different crews were available, the film crews that were doing Hawaii Five-0 and were put out of work for a while, they were available. All the people every crew, I'm talking about, from key grips to cameramen to caterers or whatever, right? All of that, David, did that happen at that time? And how long it's in Hawaiian, the subtitles, they learned Hawaiian. Jason Scott Lee had to learn Hawaiian in order to play the ko'olau. How many days did it take to film this movie on the Big Island?
Well, a few things we're really proud of, Pastor, is this was made by 100% Hawaii crew. And that may not sound too significant for some of your audience, but it's really significant, because most productions that are made in Hawaii, so many people are imported from LA or whatever. And this was a moment for us to say, we're grateful in the industry, the creative industries in Hawaii, for the Jurassic Parks, for the big blockbusters, because it brings work. But really, they're coming here for the backdrop. They're coming here for the waterfalls, for the beaches. That's awesome. But we have so many stories to tell from here. And we have storytellers to tell them behind the
Mm.
camera, in front of the camera. And my prayer is that this can be an example of what we can do, what's possible. And I think you saw a version of that what happened in New Zealand, yeah, where people started telling their own stories, like Whale Rider and
Yeah.
back in the day, Once Were Warriors,
Yeah.
those kinds of films, and it began building, and paved the way for Lord of the Rings to then push it over the top.
Wow.
And I really, my prayer for Hawaii is that we will be a beacon to the world as storytellers, and we've got what it takes. So we have, 100% Hawaii crew. A lot of them were like from Magnum and and everybody was at home, unemployed, and I called up my partners and said, "Hey guys, I know we've been trying to make this with a bigger budget, this and that, but what if we go bootstrap, epic on a budget, and everybody gets paid the same? Everyone got a paycheck. We were a union show, but the lowest tier." And I did the Shackleton pitch, when he went to the polls and was like, "Who wants to go to, exploring in the ice with me? And it's low pay, high chance of you'll probably get sick. Don't know if you're gonna come back." And I did that pitch. I was just real with everybody. We're gonna move into this ranch in Kohala, and you're stuck there. And so cast, crew, even our extras, we all had to live together. And it ended up being such a special time. Hard work, such a special time, because we had to be there. And we were the first full-length feature in Hawaii to be made post-pandemic. So we had different branches of government breathing down our back to set protocols. So it was really strict. Then thankfully, not a single case of COVID happened.
Awesome. Yeah.
And that was during the sketchy times, and we were able to get this thing made. So so it was wing and a prayer, but hopefully this is the start of many more to do.
Awesome. Hey everybody, you've been listening to filmmaker, director, producer David Cunningham from the Big Island in Kona, with his latest film called The Wind and the Reckoning. I highly suggest, recommend, implore you to go and watch this film and take your family. Probably one of the most wholesome things you'll get to watch in a decade. Go there, watch it. Incredible story, and tell your friends about it. And in fact, go to dinner after, discuss it. Bring your whole Ohana with you, and just bring them all with you, your neighborhood, and talk about this movie, because it is powerful and it is so amazing. David, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your love for the people of Hawaii. Thank you for who you are and the gift God gave you in the sphere that you are in, and telling stories that bring incredible knowledge to people. So God bless you. We'll talk soon.
God bless, Pastor.
Everybody, I hope you enjoyed that interview with David Cunningham. What an incredible opportunity to tell an incredible story. I know for some of you that you don't even live on Oahu or in the islands right now, and you may not get to see it yet until maybe it goes to Netflix, or if it goes to Amazon Prime Video, you'll get to see it there. Or who knows, it might end up in a theater near you. But make sure that you do that. I also want to thank Waiakea Water, who is a sponsor of all things Inspire Collective, and as well as the Pound for Pound Leader podcast, for providing great water for us. Also, the last thing is, make sure that you go and see this film. Whoever you are, if you live on Oahu or in the islands, go and see this movie. It is a game changer, and I'm telling you right now, go see it. Until then, may you have an incredible Thanksgiving. If you live on Oahu, I'd love to see you at Inspire Church at Waikele, Mililani, Honolulu, and Kailua. And of course, check our website, inspirechurch.live, to see future Waimea services on the Big Island. So good to have you. Until then, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We thank God for you. God bless, and aloha.